How's it going, everybody? Matt Borey here from the Jackpot Gents with my dad, as always, Steve Borey, and our resident slot expert, Josh O'Connell, is here from knowyourslots.com. How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing, Dad?
I'm sleepy. Let's get this over with. I gotta go take
Okay.
a nap.
All right. So, our video today, Josh, is costly mistakes that players make in the casino. So, let's just hop right into it so Dad can go take a nap.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And of course, just a note, although you introduced me as a slot expert, this is definitely more advice that can work for everybody. This is not something that you have to be a slot player to take advantage of. And the first bullet is something we've all talked about here together multiple times at this point, which is not using a player's card. When you walk into a casino and you play, that player's card is your kind of unofficial contract with the casino. You give them information about how you play and how much you play, and in return, they're going to give you earned comps, which are your comp dollars that you can spend on property. They're also going to give you offers. Those offers are going to be sort of a rebate almost of your expected loss per visit to the casino, and you those things have a value. They have a concrete value. They save you money if you get a free hotel room. They give you free play, which can be turned into money, right? So that's a pretty costly mistake right out of the gate if you're not using that player's card to take advantage of those benefits.
Now, Matt and I do point out for years we've always been saying this. You got to use your players club card all the time. But then a few years ago, we decided that we have to throw in a little caveat that once in a
Yeah.
while, what the casino is going to do is they're going to base your comps or your gifts or cash back or offers, free rooms, free food, whatever, based on your level of play. And the higher your level of play, the more they're going to offer you. But sometimes you'll go to a casino. Let's say you're going to meet a friend at lunch in the casino. So you're walking by a slot machine. Oh, let me, my friend will be here in 5 minutes. Let me sit down. I'll put in my card. I'll play for 5 minutes. Well, and then you leave after. So you don't want to do something like that because you're going to lower your overall average play. So just keep in mind, if you're going to go to a casino and make a very short visit, you don't want to use your card at that time because what the casino is going to do is they're going to average all your visits together, and that's going to lower your average play, and it could come back to bite you.
Yeah.
The other thing we suggest that if you're a husband and a wife, rather than play on two cards at the same time, it would be better if you played on one card one day and another card, one spouse one day and the other spouse the next visit, so you'll get a higher level of play on each card rather than playing on each card at the same time and getting a lower level.
Or let me throw an alternative out there, which is similar to what you just suggested, but sometimes you want to play with a bigger budget and sometimes you want to play with a smaller budget. So maybe if you're going to go on a bigger budget day, you favor the A card. And if you're going to go on a smaller budget day, you favor the B card. So that way you can still get benefits off of your play when you're playing less, but you're not sacrificing your better comps on that good card. And so my partner and I have actually employed that as strategy every once in a while because he's not really much of a player at all. But like if I want to go to the casino primarily for some other purpose, and that's actually my rule of thumb. If my primary purpose for going to the casino is a big family dinner, or I need to return a shirt that was literally one earlier this year for me, and that was the only place that had the store was my casino, I will make sure that I don't use my player's card, but I might use his because he doesn't really get much, but we'll still get something out of it for the next time he goes. And so that's another way to swing it. Especially if you're gonna play evenly every time, going between cards is fine. But if you don't always play the same amount, or maybe you have bigger budget trips and smaller budget trips, you might find that you want to use the cards that way as well. That's another trick you can possibly employ.
Mhm.
I actually like that the way you said it. If the primary trip for the visit or visit for the trip, reason for the trip is for gambling, you use that card. I had never thought about using like a second card, or like your partner, your husband, your wife, whatever have you, as the second card for smaller trips, but I do like that because at least you're getting something out of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there are three casinos I can get to within about an hour of here, and for a while I treated one of the casinos as my low budget casino, so I wasn't really worried about offers there. But like, if I just wanted to play for a couple hours, I would go up there, and when I had my regular budget days or my bigger budget trips, I would focus on the casino where I had the better offers, and so that way I didn't ruin my good casino offers by having a low play day. And so, you know, some people don't have that luxury because maybe they only live by one casino, for instance. So you know, there's other ways, other tricks you can employ to sort of do the same thing and not hurt your offers when you're going for a lower play day.
All right, and next on the list.
So the second one, some players may not do this, but I do recommend this, is not setting a budget. So if you go to the casino with the expectation they're just going to pull cash out of the ATM if you want cash, there's a couple problems there. One is that you can lose track of how much you're actually spending, right? Because you might have cash in your wallet already. You might go to the ATM more than once. You know, the emotional side of gambling can sometimes kick in if you're having a rough time of it, and you might go back to the well. I actually, for many years, was with a smaller bank that had a very low ATM limit, and that was very helpful because I couldn't keep going back to the ATM, even if I wanted to. But actually, in more modern times, I pull the cash out before I go, especially local trips, because I don't want to even have the thought of going to the ATM at the casino. And so that's my budget, and that's what I'm allowing myself to play with. On the other hand, if you're setting a budget, you know what you're walking in with, you know how much you're going to be spending, you know it's from your entertainment budget, which is always important. You don't want to be spending money that belongs to your rent or your utilities or anything like that. So you know, if you have the tendency to go to the ATM and you kind of aren't tracking it very carefully, that's a risk, right? That's a mistake you can make, and you could spend more than you're planning on it, just something that you ultimately regret. And you don't want, you know, your entertainment trips to be something that leads to emotional regret or anything like that. So I'd recommend a budget accordingly, just to kind of keep that in check a little bit.
Yeah, and if you're a person, another thing that well, I was gonna say, if you're a person that you know tends to act, I don't know if impulsively is the right word, but you know, if you don't trust yourself, you know, just bring $500 and leave your ATM card at home, you know, then you can't go to the ATM even if you wanted to. We just saw a guy gambling the other day, Dad. We were in the high limit
Yes,
room at
that's
the
crazy.
Hard Rock filming. Dude put $500 in a machine, was doing like $100 a spin on a slot machine, hit for $10,000. In the time we shot, like maybe a 12-minute video, he blew through the entire $10,000 hand pay he got, and then I watched him go to the ATM 3 different times for $2,000. So he blew $16,000 in like the 10 minutes, if that we were there filming that video. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
slots
don't
can be
be
very
like that guy.
expensive.
Yes. And on top of it, if you're using the ATM in the casino, the ATM fees are going to be like triple what they are if you were just at the bank, you know?
Yeah, I always love people that say the joke, the machine that pays best is the ATM. But when you figure out the house advantage on that ATM fee about the money you're pulling out, it may not be as good of a bet as you would think, because the casino still wins even on that. It's not 100% you're getting back.
Yeah, you're right about that one. All right, what's next on your list?
So that connects right to just what I was saying about the last bullet, which is gambling with money outside your entertainment budget. So that's clearly a costly mistake. And there are people who are having a rough time, and they sometimes think, oh, well, a casino is an opportunity to make money. Maybe I'll go there and try to win my way to a better place. And the reality is that more people are going to lose the casino as losers than winners, because the house has an advantage, right? Every single game is designed over time to make the casino money. And it's not like 50-50. It's not like exactly half the people are leaving winners and exactly half the people are leaving behind. It's definitely not that simple of a calculation. So, you know, if you're thinking about going to the casino to try to make up a budget gap, that's not the right way to go. There's definitely other ways to do that. However, you know, if it was money you were going to use to go to the movies, and you consider it sort of a spent money, like either way, right? You're going to spend, you know, $50 to take a family of 4 to the movies, or $50 to go to the casino. You know, entertainment's fine. My grandmother, who was one of my early influences on when it comes to gambling, was always said you can gamble the movie money, not the milk money. That was her sort of simple way of sort of underscoring it. And you know, I really think that's just good advice for anybody.
The way I put it is, don't gamble money you can't afford to lose. If you need it for bills, don't use it in the casino, because chances are you're not going to come back with it.
Yeah, so many people want to go to the casino. It's like, oh, I'm going to take this money and win. But like your best attitude is to go in presuming that you will have spent that money by the time you leave the building. And if
Exactly.
you haven't, if you're walking out with cash, even if it's not as much as you walked in with, you're walking out with more money than you expected to leave with. So that's a success. And so, that's the best way to sort of approach it.
If you wouldn't bring it shopping, don't bring it into a casino.
Words of wisdom from Matt Borey.
It's about the only words of wisdom you'll ever get from me.
He's a genius. Yes.
My boy is a genius. Exactly. All
All
right.
right. And what about the next one? What, number 4, I think?
Yes, number 4.
Yes.
And this is one that I personally employ a lot, especially for day trips, which is setting a time limit. And I think this is really important because um, you hear a lot of stories of people talking about hosts, and hosts are always encouraging people to play for a few hours. 3 to 4 hours usually is the number that comes up. And the reason why is that every single wager is another chance for the casino to get a little piece of your money, right? So if you're betting $1 per spin on a slot machine, if you're betting $10 per spin of the wheel on roulette, a hand of blackjack, whatever the case may be, that's just another wager with a percentage over time that the house is expecting to win off of that. And so the longer you're there, the more of those wagers you place and the more money is exposed. So if you set a time limit, you know that at the end of that time, if you have money left over, you're walking out with that money. It's as simple as that. So if you play an open-ended, you're more likely to run out of money before you leave if you don't set that time limit. And so, I'll set a generous time limit, say 4 hours, which is a good half a day. And that's plenty of time to spend a casino, maybe 5 if I want to build in like a midpoint lunch and take a break and stretch my legs and that kind of stuff. And so, that's plenty of time for many people to get a good run on the casino. If you end up ahead, or if you win a grand jackpot on a cruise ship or whatever the case may be, it encourages you to walk away with that money instead of splurging it all back in, $100 at a time on a $10,000 jackpot, right? So that's one thing I think is just healthy to think about. If you set a time limit, you know that at the end of that, wherever you stand, you're going to walk out with it. And that can be very helpful. It also can encourage you to adjust your bets. If you're getting hit hard at the beginning of your time limit and you want to last that 4 hours, you might slow it down so you can still have fun and make that trip worth it.
Now, Matt, have you been setting time limits on your play?
Yeah, as soon as we finish our videos, I'd leave and get the heck out and go home
No,
and take a nap. I pull the play out of your playbook and go home and take a nap.
There you go. That's my boy. In all the years, I don't know if I was setting much in the way of time limits, maybe budget limits. Yeah. If you have a bad day, so I don't like that and just stop. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I ever, probably about 3 or 4 hours is my max anyway. So I would just stop, but I don't think I ever went in and said, okay, I'm going to play 4 hours and then go. But it's an interesting concept, and I'm sure that would work well for some people. They should consider that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught away. We know that there's no clocks anywhere. There's no and things like that. And so, a step further, like sort of like a sub bullet to this is I say, everybody's carrying a smartphone nowadays. You have a clock with a timer and an alarm on it. So why not just set the alarm to go off? So even if you don't leave at that point, it's just a reminder of where things are, how long you've been there, and it gives you, I think we've talked previously about decision points, right? Like, you put $20 in the machine, you run out. Do I want to put another 20 in, or do I want to move on? Right. It's just another thing that kind of gets you to sort of take stock of where things are and decide, am I having fun? Do I want to stay? Or maybe I'm ready to go home and get some dinner and see the family and the dog, right? Like that kind of thing. So I just always think it's healthy to have those points to just remind you that you've been there a while and how you feeling.
Well, I was going to say, I think the main difference between slots, because you're more of a slots player and we're more video poker player. Video poker kind of has that built-in time limit, because if you play video poker for long enough, your brain just turns into mush.
That's true. That's true. I usually have a right around the 2 or if I sit down like around the 2.5, 3 hour point, I need to take a break. It's almost like consistently. It's like you start realizing you're making a mistake here and there, and I usually have a 3 mistakes and you're out kind of rule, sort of like your 3 strikes. But like if I catch myself making too many mistakes in a short amount of time, I have to take a break.
All right, what do we got up next?
Playing games with a higher house advantage. Now, obviously, talking about slots, for instance, we know that that's one of the highest house advantages in the casino. Although, if you're at a casino with like live Keno, for instance, you're going to go even worse. But the reality is that if you're playing slots versus playing video poker or blackjack, or even like if you're playing penny slots versus roulette, you're playing a game that has a higher house advantage, which means over time the casino is going to take your money faster. And so one thing you can do to save money, quote unquote, or make your money last longer, more likely, is play games with a smaller house advantage. And so, learning basic strategy at blackjack, learning a jacks or better, which is sort of the least volatile and most basic video poker you can learn. Those types of things can help slow down your play, in terms of your spend, rather, because you're playing games that have better odds for you, and over time won't spend your money as fast. And so it's costly if you're playing penny slots, because we know that the house advantage on those are generally somewhere around the 12 to 15% range, and so those are going to be pretty costly pretty quick many times, unless you happen to hit a really good jackpot, and then you've gotten lucky and beaten the odds from that perspective.
One example of this that I find crazy is, it used to be, the example I used to use was a single zero roulette wheel versus a double zero roulette wheel. But now the single zeros, you kind of only find them in the high limit room. So now I have to change this example and say the difference is a double zero roulette wheel versus a triple zero roulette wheel. And because I've seen that some of the big mega resorts on the strip now offer, for all intents and purposes, is a triple zero. The third zero is generally some logo like the Golden Knight logo or whatever. And you'll see the triple zero table will be full. I would think I was walking through a casino one time. The triple zero table was full. The double zero table had no one at it. And
Right.
that's like, and the house edge is what I think it's over 7% on triple zero. And that's like, if you go to a buffet and there's two lines, one line is $10, the other line's $15, and the $15 line is full and the $10 line is empty. So definitely that is something that always blows my mind, and what I take into account with the
Yeah.
high limits.
But even that 7% house advantage and change on triple zero roulette is still less than the 12% or more house advantage on penny slots, right? So even that change is still, and how many wagers do you make per hour? What's the, those are other things to think about. Like, right, if the triple zero table is a $10 minimum and the double zero table is a $25 minimum, because of the difference in minimum, it might still spend less at that $10 table versus that $25 table. And so there is sometimes, even though it's not as good of a gamble, you might spend less money because you don't have to bet as much per spin. And so there's a really good website called Vegas Advantage, and they do a lot of sort of analysis like that. They also do things like, where are the double zero versus the triple zero versus Plaza with the single zero roulette still. And they'll give you that information so you can actually find the best rules. And so that's actually a good tip. So, I think it's less than $20. They produce this guide twice a year, and they analyze all of the tables in Las Vegas, the locals, casinos, downtown Las Vegas, and they'll tell you where the best opportunities are, so you can save money by playing better rules or playing that single zero versus that double zero. And so, that type of information is out there if you're paying attention, and you can get a better house advantage and a better gamble for your money.
Yeah, we interviewed him. Twice.
I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Him and his wife. They're both great.
John and
people.
Christina, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, they are sharp. Both of them are real sharp people.
Yeah, so we have that video out there if some people want to look for it. But the other thing about, you can play a game with a higher house advantage. Well, what we were talking about, they would simply raise the minimum bet. But the other thing you can do is you can play a higher house advantage game like Keno. You had mentioned Keno, which has about a 27% house edge. But you can play Keno for $1,
right,
and it's like 10 minutes between games. So you have to go back to how fast are you putting money through these machines, or making your bets. The faster the game, that's why slots can be such a killer, because you could just sit there and you bet $3, $4, $5 a spin every couple of seconds.
$150, $200 a spin, like that guy we saw.
Yeah, like that guy.
And you can rapid fire the machine. You can speed, stop it, make the reels come to a stop faster, and get to that next wager even faster. I mean, I think the last time I checked the averages, it was 400 to 600 spins an hour on a slot machine. That's factoring in bonuses where you're not spending at all. So that's quite a lot of wagers for a single hour, and chances for the casino to make some money.
Right. So that's something else that people have to keep in mind. Is you should try and slow down your rate of play, as well as looking for a lower house advantage game.
So the next one that I have on the list then is So now you're playing these lower house advantage games, but some of them require you to pay more attention, right? Video poker, you have to make decisions. Blackjack, you have to make decisions. So gambling while overly tired is the next one. And so if you're gambling at a point where you're just sort of exhausted, you're just going to naturally make mistakes on those games. And even if you're playing a game like slots, you may miswager, or you were going to stop at 50 but you're not paying attention because you're tired and you end up getting down to 20, right? So um I usually encourage people to take breaks, get some food, take a nap, don't, the machines will still be there in a couple hours. They don't get up and walk away. And so, it's definitely encouraged to take breaks and not play overly tired.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about this. I say I play video poker for long enough, I feel like a zombie, and you said the same thing. You start making mistakes, And that's when you gotta just and people that'll stay up all night and gamble too. It's the same way. Like, if you're in Vegas for a few days, why stay up all night and gamble? You're just gonna be miserable the next day. Go up to the hotel room, go to sleep, just like you said, it's gonna be there in the morning. You'd rather I don't know about you. I hate being tired though. I would much rather go up to the hotel, go to bed early, and get up and play the next day than play all night and then be I turn into a grouch when I'm tired. So
One of the newly found like favorite things to do is to go to bed at a reasonable hour in a place like Las Vegas, wake up at like say 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and have the entire casino floor to myself. Whatever game I want, it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
yeah.
No one's playing. There's no line at Starbucks. You can get yourself a drink and just sit down, and that hour or so first thing in the morning is actually quite enjoyable because like I don't have to deal with like a lot of the casinos that where they're smoking. I'm a former smoker, so like I try not to be around the smoke. So it's just helpful when there's less people, less chance of it happening. All these things are just pluses in my mind. And so, yeah, I definitely have come to appreciate like the regular night's sleep. I mean, when I was younger, I would definitely be up at a casino till 3 in the morning playing craps or slots and go to bed and wake up at like 11. I just don't do that anymore though.
Well, years ago, I remember at the Mirage, and well, no, it wasn't a Mirage. It was Treasure Island. Stay at Treasure Island, and I was learning how to count cards. So I was just still practicing, and you could go down to the casino at like 9 o'clock in the morning and have a $10 double deck game. Dealer stands in soft 17. You can double after splits. It was a great game. Now that game would be $100.
Right.
So things have changed in that sense. And one other Las Vegas story was, Walter, my friend Walter Thomason.
yes,
He wrote the book on I think he wrote 21st
21st
Century
century
Blackjack. So Walter was not a card counter. Walter believed in progressive betting. I said, well, Walter, it doesn't really work, but he wrote this book about how to play blackjack and what you should do. And I went with him on a trip to Las Vegas. He would always give me a copy of the book and I'd read it. And one of the sections there was about, you shouldn't play when you're tired. You should make sure, because you got to make all these decisions. You make sure you're refreshed and everything. And we go there. We left here, whatever it was, 8. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning our time by the time we get there. So Walter, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm going to go play. So I go to sleep. It's like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. He just rolls in from the casino. I said, what, are you crazy? You were up all night. I said, you wrote about this. You said you're not supposed to play when you're tired, and you're the exact opposite of what you wrote about. But he didn't care. Plus, he was drinking, which is next on your list. So
Yeah.
and smoking. Unfortunately, Walter passed away a few years ago. All that drinking, smoking, and gambling, I guess, finally got to him. But so you should follow your own advice. That's what I told Walter.
Absolutely.
Right. So
mistake.
speaking
Gambling
of
while
gambling,
intoxicated. I see it all the time. People want to know if the casino gives free drinks, and a free drink here and there is certainly fine, but like casinos don't give free drinks just out of the generosity of their heart. And there are many casinos that don't even bother to do that because they know you'll pay for them anyway. But either way, as you drink more, if you drink enough that you're getting, buzzed or intoxicated in some way, you are, as we know, certainly making it more difficult to make the right decisions consistently. You might, and casinos also know that you might bet more aggressively. Similarly, decision making on how you're betting and how much you're betting and how often you're betting. And so, that can be very costly. You know, I definitely remember my 20s, one interesting night where I just kind of hit this interesting point, and I was up and down, and I was playing video poker at this bar, and managed to get up like $700 or $800 on a super times pay machine. And when I got back to the room, I think I'd given half of it back because I didn't set a stop point, and I was just sort of riding the wave, and I could have probably left with a lot more money instead of playing for another 2 hours, kind of tired and making mistakes. And so you know, tired and had been drinking, right? So usually they go hand in hand a little bit, let's be honest. So so that's just another thing, right? Like, even though you're going with entertainment money, even though you're expecting to leave the casino having spent that money, it doesn't mean you have to be reckless with your money. It doesn't mean you have to give the casino easy access to your money by making mistakes or overly aggressively betting because you've been drinking, right? So just something to keep in mind. Now, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy a drink, and it doesn't mean you can't drink at the casino, but like, just, you know, if you're going to sit down and start betting significant money, you should just, you know, gut check yourself. Am I in a good position to do this right now? Am I feeling like this is going to be a good decision for me?
Yes, that's
I'm,
me.
I'm
Like
sure
me,
Matt has many stories about drinking in casinos.
I was going to say
Let's hear a couple.
I could teach a master class on this one. It's like me in the on the craps table in the casino. The more I start to drink, the more terrible the bets I make are.
The only time I actually ever had I used to love the idea of playing at Caesar's Palace in that famous pit, and they always had, like, you know, $15 craps or $25 craps, and they used to always be like way above what I'd be willing to bet. Every once in a while I'd be like, I'll give this a shot. And when I was like a little bit buzzed, I would always say, oh, fine, I'll just give it a try. And I always seem to win. And so, like, that's just the worst situation to be in, because then it's like, I have such fond memories of winning over there when, you know, like, the odds were, you kind of were against you, and you happen to just succeed nonetheless. And so I kind of stay away from there now.
Yeah, you think you're invincible, and then you have that one trip where you figure out why the casinos are always so big and so fancy.
Oh, yes.
Well, now I don't have any drinking stories in casinos. That's one thing. I'm not a big drinker, and I especially know not to do it in casinos. But one thing, I was just on a cruise. You had gone on a cruise, one of these Brian Christopher cruises, but I'm always intrigued by the art auctions. And you know, at the art auctions, they always give you a free glass of champagne. I'm sure you've noticed that, because I'm sure a lot of people start drinking that champagne and get carried away and buy
Just
these.
loosens you up a little bit, gets
Yeah,
you feeling
yeah.
feeling fun, having a good
Right.
time. Oh, let me bid on that, and then yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So it could be just as disastrous in an auction as it can in the casino. So something to think
Mhm.
about. All right, what do we have next? Not checking. Oh, sorry, I don't want to take it away from you.
Oh, you're fine. Not checking the machine's denomination. And this is, I think, something that matters whether you're playing electronic table games, whether you're playing um, video poker, which many times is multi-denomination. Of course, slots many times are multi-denomination. And one thing that has gotten better, I will say, is that newer machines will reset sort of to the selection screen when the player cashes out or runs out of money. Whereas some of the older slots that were multi-denomination didn't always do this. And so you might sit down thinking you're sitting at a penny machine. The next thing you know, you look down, wait a minute, that's dimes. I didn't bet $5, I just bet 50, right? So it's important to check that denomination, because, you know, even a couple of mistaken wagers can spend your money much faster than you were hoping. You know, there's also low limit lightning link and high limit lightning link machines, for instance, where one starts on pennies and one starts on dimes. And if you don't pay attention, you know, you're starting with a $5 bet instead of a 50-cent bet. And so, like, I put $20 in one of those machines not all that long ago, and realized, oh, that's $5 a spin versus 50 cents. And so 4 spins and that $20 was gone, right? So just something to keep in mind, because it can, making that mistake will just spend your money faster than you're hoping. It can impact your entire trip, like if you're behind the curve from the get-go because you spent more than you were planning.
Yeah, I did that recently at I was at a casino, and they had a banking slot machine, and I saw it was in a good state. I sat down to play it and put my free play in, and couldn't figure out why my free play was gone, and then I realized it was a 10-cent machine and not a penny machine.
Yep.
Your mother had in all our years going to the casino one time, and she still knows the name of the game that she played. It was a Kenny Rogers slot machine. She put in, I thought she was betting like 90 cents or something, and she wound up betting like $18 on her spin. So that was totally freaked her out, and said, oh, and she'll never play a Kenny Rogers slot machine again. We've seen him in the casino. Nope, won't play that game. But it can happen. Yeah. So
That actually
gotta be
happened to me
careful.
once at the Hard Rock too. I had a bunch of tickets, and I was just, you know, if you have a bunch of tickets, you combine them all into one. I sat down in a machine, combined them all into one, and was like, whatever. I'll hit the spin button one time to see what happens. I hit the max bet button, and it was like it was a Larry's Lobster Mania machine on the main floor, and it was $1 Larry's Lobster Mania. So I made like a $50 bet or something.
Yeah,
So yeah,
those can hurt.
Now,
because I was like, and then afterwards, I was like, who the hell puts a $1 Larry's Lobster Mania on the main casino floor? It wasn't even in the high limit room.
well, there was a machine on the cruise ship that we were on, which I didn't quite understand. It was like 88 cents or whatever it is, $3, and it went to $15, and it went to $45. It was $45 to spin on a penny machine. I said that's crazy if somebody accidentally hits that. But it can happen, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, I prefer that they at least separate them by denomination if they're going to give that kind of a range. Unless it was just a game that wasn't designed to be multi-denom and the casino was just trying to push it. But
yeah, so definitely we've all made that. Well, Dad hasn't made that mistake. He's perfect, but the rest of us have.
I'm sure I've made it, but I don't remember it, so it couldn't have been that bad. But yeah, we all make a mistake. But sometimes it could be a very expensive mistake. I don't know, I had a real expensive mistake. So again, something we all have, we want to be careful.
Yep.
Okay, next. Oh, wait, are we up to our last one? We are.
We're on our final costly mistake, and that's not knowing the game that you're playing. And now this can be true of slots. Matt was talking about banking machines, and if you don't know what banking machines are, if you're playing them in the sort of the basic unbanked state when they've just sort of paid out, you could be playing at the wrong time, frankly. But like more commonly, this would be like video poker and not knowing the rules, blackjack, that sort of thing, where, if you go and you just play by gut instead of by actual basic strategy, you are most likely giving the casino more money than you should over time by making mistakes in your play. On the cruise I was on, a friend of mine and I had a rule: if there were more than one person playing poorly, we'd walk away, not because we necessarily thought they were affecting us, because it could improve or hurt our hand. It doesn't, it evens out over time, but just that we didn't want to surround ourselves with that kind of play, because it threw us off of our own understanding of how we should be playing. And so it's good to know those rules, because then you're going to ultimately get as close as you can to the expected payback over time, because everybody's going to make mistakes at some point, unless you're maybe Bob Dancer and maybe you're perfect. But most of us are going to make mistakes from time to time. And so if you're playing with basic strategy as a general rule, at least you're going to minimize those mistakes, minimize the loss that you're incurring above and beyond the house edge that's built into the game itself.
My dad has a name for that. Whenever we're playing blackjack and somebody's just all over the place, he calls it voodoo blackjack. There's no rhyme or reason why they're doing that. They just
Dealer's got a 10. I'm going to stay on 13.
Yeah,
good for you.
The way I describe it is just always play by the book. If you're playing by your gut feeling, you're gonna, whenever it doesn't work, you're gonna be like, oh my God, why'd I do that? Just always play by the book, and then you just blame it on the book. Then it's not even your fault. Simple as that.
Yeah, well, I was at a blackjack table once, and the guy was next to me, and he had a 12, and he doubled down on his 12, and I think he did it twice. And the second time, I said, I said, why do you do that? He says, oh, I feel lucky. I think I'm gonna get it. I feel lucky. I said, well, you could feel lucky, but about a third of the cards there, you're gonna lose, because they're a 10 value. It's really not a good idea, but he wanted to do it. So, that was voodoo blackjack. It was he's gonna get lucky, and he's gonna win. But one game I tell people, if you don't know what you're doing, you want to go in the casino, you want to try a table game, you could always go to Baccarat, because in Baccarat, there's really no such thing as a bad Baccarat player. Well, unless you're making the tie bet. But if it's like flipping a coin, heads or tails, you don't have to make any decisions like in blackjack. The dealer makes all the decisions. They deal all the cards out, and you just see if you get paid or not. So you just bet player or banker. So I tell people, if you don't know anything, you want to go in the casino, you want to try a game, try Baccarat. Now, I think it's easier now with no commission Baccarat, because before you had to pay a commission if you did a bank bet, which could be a little bit confusing. But now I think they have no commission Baccarat, and
right, exactly.
You don't have to do anything. Just put your bet out and see if you win. That's it.
And much better house edge than roulette, which I would also say is not a game you necessarily need to
Right.
learn how to play, because like betting on red or black is pretty self-explanatory, but there's a much higher house edge on that versus baccarat. So if you're talking about good games in terms of good value, baccarat's gonna win over roulette for sure.
My suggestion is always, you have to have a little bit of knowledge of poker hands, but I always tell people to try Pai Gow poker.
Oh
'Cause
yes.
Pai Gow poker is, you get dealt 7 cards and you got to break it into 2 different hands, a high hand and a low hand. And if both win, then you win money. If both lose, then you lose money. If one wins and one loses, it's just a push. Nothing. You just get your money back and play the next hand.
And now that
And
face up is becoming more commonplace, the dealers are more able to help you. And I've noticed that that's become more of a thing. So they're not going to let you set the hand poorly. And they'll, you know, especially if you ask for assistance or like what the right move is. So, you know, you have that advantage too, which is not not really possible when the dealer's hands face down, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is, once everybody else has played their hand, if you don't know what to do, you can just you put them cards face up on the table and ask the dealer, and the dealer will set it for you. Well, they won't set it for you. They'll tell you how to set it.
Right, exactly.
And that's a much more fun game than baccarat. And baccarat can be kind of dull, but I tell people, if you want to get a taste of a casino game, do that. But I would say poker, it's fun.
I would say baccarat, if you've never ever, you know nothing about a casino and you want to play a table game, baccarat the first time. If you know a little bit about casinos and you want to get a taste of table games, go for Pai Gow poker. Baccarat step 1, Pai Gow step 2.
I like it.
I would agree. Okay, Josh, that's the end of your list there. So now if people want to learn more about you and your work, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So my website is Know Your Slots, which is knowyourslots.com. I also maintain social media accounts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And coming next year, I'll have a YouTube channel coming up and running as well.
And on top of it, you moderate all of our live streams on Monday night.
Yes, I do.
And what is your YouTube channel for when it comes out, so people can go subscribe?
So my YouTube handle is at Know Your Slots, just like everything else. So if you type youtube.com/the @ Know Your Slots, that's how you'll get there.
Perfect. Well, Josh, thank you very much for joining us today. Always a pleasure. And have a happy holiday.
Yes, happy holidays to everybody watching and to you both as well.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and best wishes for good luck in the casinos.